Hello everyone. Okay, so now we are in files 2 and we'll also include the 2 practice question over here. So this is going over aggregation, which is when you create 2 independent objects of different classes, but you put one object inside the other one. So I'm giving you the starter code where we have a book class with title, author, and is available, and then 4 different books here. So these objects are already created here, all the code is already written out for you. What I want you to do is come down in here to part 2. What you need to do is define a library member class, okay? So rather than do it down below, I'm actually just going to put it next to this other code so we can see it all at once. So I want you to make a class, I'm going to call it library member. And we want it to have instance variables of name and checked out books. So def, let's do our initializer, our constructor. So we have self, name, and down here I say to make the name have a corresponding parameter. So we want to put name here. So it has a parameter corresponding to the instance variable that we want to create for it. Okay. Then we also want to create one named, let's see, checked out books. And we're just going to set that equal to an empty list. And we're going to fill this in a little bit later. So now let's create 2 library member objects. Append a book or 2 to each library member's checked out books list. Print out the title of the first book in each library member's list. So let's make a few library member objects. Let's say, let's make Jim. Okay, Bob. Okay, so we're going to make these 2 library member objects, which is going to give them a instance variable of checked out books, but it's initialized to just be an empty list. So let's actually add book objects to the library member objects. Okay, so to do that, let's just give Jim a few books. Let's say Jim. So this is an object, and if I do dot, I get access to those instance variables inside of him. Let's get checked out books, and let's just append, how about book 2, and then let's just do another one. Let's do book 3. Okay, and then let's just leave it with Jim for now. So if I wanted to, this isn't very useful, but I could see over here how I have, I could even just print out my book list here. I can see I have 2 book objects stored inside of Jim, inside of this library member. So let's look at, for example, let's look at his second book. So remember, we use 0-based indexing, so 0 is the first book in there, 1 would be the second. And since this is getting the first thing inside of this list, or the second thing, sorry, that means we're getting access to this book object. And to access variables inside of objects, we just do dot. So once we do that, we are accessing then any variables that we have stored inside a book. So let's just get the title. So now if I run that, there we go. I get The Great Gatsby. That's the title of book 3, right? Yep, there we go. So the key thing to remember here is just that we are sticking an object of one type, book, into the other. And the original object still exists independent of the other one. I can still say, hey, book 3.title, and it exists just fine. They both exist independently. I guess not completely independently, because if I change the title of one, it would change the title of the other, but I can access them independently. Is a better way of putting it. So I could do that. I could append books as much as I want into here. But let's go over here to part 3. Because right now you can see the basic pattern here of putting objects inside of something else, but let's actually make it a little bit more realistic or more robust, we might say. So let's add a checkout book method to the library member class. This method should accept a book object as an argument. Within the checkout book method, do 2 checks. Verify if the book is available. So we want to check if the book's is available instance variable is equal to true. If the book is not available, print a message indicating it can't be checked out. Ensure that a member cannot check out more than 2 books. If attempting to check out more, print out this person, their name, cannot check out more than 2 books. If the book is available and the member hasn't exceeded the limit, mark the book as unavailable and add it to the members list of checked out books. Print out this message. Name is checked out, this book title. They now have the number of books checked out. Okay, so let's add this method as part of the library member class. So remember, methods are just functions that exist inside of classes, right? Let's say check out book. So we have self as the first parameter, and then we're gonna want to pass in a book object inside of here, okay? And so we talked about a couple of conditions that would make us not want to actually check out the book. So first we want to check if the book is actually available. We also want to check that the member hasn't gone over their limit, okay? So you could combine these checks. You could do it a few different ways. Sometimes I just like to check for everything that could go wrong and then exit the function if those occur. So let's just say like if the book object, which is going to be one of these, and they have this is available. So I want to check is available. And if it isn't available, I can just end the function directly there, right? So I can say if not book object is available, so basically if it's not available, then I can print out a message. Let's see what I said to print out. I didn't say anything specific, so let's just make one up. Let's say book object dot title is not available to check out. Cool. So that gets our first condition there. Let's do this other one. So we want to check if the length of the library member that's using this method, say checked out books, to say if the length of this is greater than 2, then let's print out a message, and let's just say self.name has already reached the 2-book limit. Cannot check out more. Sure, you could make that sound fancier if you want, but otherwise, let's check out the book. Okay, so otherwise, we want to mark the book object. Oh, and I forgot a key part of this. Let's return. So return will just instantly end my function, right? So if either of these two conditions occur, I'm just going to end the function immediately. Okay. Otherwise, I can say, okay, book object dot is available. Because I want to mimic checking out the book, I want to make it no longer available, so no one else can check out the book, okay? And then I need to add it to this person's list of checked out books. Let's append that. Let's put this book object inside of there, and I think I said to print out a fancy little message. Let's see, I might be able to just copy and paste it. Let's see here, paste that in there. So let's replace name with self.name, because name is inside of the object. Self is just a representation of a library member object that's calling this, right? See, we have book title, so this is going to be book object title, okay? They now have, and let's get self dot checked out books, and we want the length of this. Oopsie, let's go over here. There's that one. Okay, that should look okay now. Let me just bring this over here so we can see more of what that looks like. So let's actually try this functionality out. Let's, I'm going to comment these out, just so that way I'm not already appending any books. And in fact, let me just comment all of this code out at this point. We've already talked about what we're doing there, so let's just kind of start over with this new logic here, because now we actually have some good checkout logic built into this. So let's say Jim wants to check out Let's just do book 1. Okay. So let's do that. Then let's have Bob try to check out book 1. Bob shouldn't be able to. Then let's have Jim check out book 2, and then also try to check out book 3. And he shouldn't be able to. Shouldn't be able to check out book. And Bob also shouldn't be able to, right? Because if Jim checks out book 1 first, book 1 should be unavailable, so it shouldn't actually work. Book 2, Jim should be able to check that out, but then by the time he tries to do book 3, that should no longer be available. And let's see, did I say to make a function? Let's see. Okay, I never said to make a function to list out their checked out books, but that's fine. We can just print out the book titles directly. So let's step into each one of these and see how it's working. Okay, so let me step into this one. So Jim is calling checkout book, and that means Jim is going to become self, okay? So self, if I hover over, I can see, okay, this is Jim. He doesn't have any checked out books yet. And then book 1, which is a book object, that's going to get passed into, and the value is going to be held by this book object parameter. Okay, so we can see it's 1984 by George Orwell. So the book object is available, but we're flipping that with not, so this is going to skip because the book is available, and we're checking if it's not available, so it should skip that. The checked out books, the length of it is 0 because we haven't checked out any books yet, so we're going to skip over that. Here we're going to switch the book objects is available to now be false. We're going to append this book into the checked out books list of this object of Jim. Okay, so now Jim is going to have this book stored inside. Okay, so he gets, there we go, get that little object there, and then we're going to print out a nice little message for us. Okay, so now they have one book checked out. Let's have Bob try and check that out, so we get stuff inside, and because he's trying to check out the same book and it isn't available, so we're going to say 1984 is not available to check out, and we're going to end the function there. Then you should be able to check out Brave New World, but when Jim tries to check out a third book, even though it's available, he's already checked out 2. So, oops, I see an error in my logic here, actually. Okay, I'm just checking if it's greater than 2. That was just a simple mistake here. Let me actually stop my code and rerun that because I want it to I want this to not work here. So we are already at 2. So this shouldn't work. We're going to say we've already reached the 2-book limit, cannot check out more, and we're going to end our function. So hopefully that gives you a good idea on how to kind of do this overview of how we're putting objects inside of other ones, and we can add extra logic on top of that as well. So let's see what else we have over here. So you have the checkout logic. Okay, we just tested this. Okay, so we just I guess we haven't looped through and looked at their list of books, so I could demonstrate that really quick. Let's say we want to see everything that Jim has. So for book object in Jim's checked out books, this is a list of objects. Let's print out the book object's title, right? So this will give us all the titles of all the books that Jim has. So let's just do that. We should be able to see that. So Jim has 1984 and Brave New World checked out. Okay. Then last part, we can implement some return logic. So add a return book method to the library member class that accepts a book object as an argument. If the book is in the members list of checked out books, remove it from the list and mark it as available. So set is available equals true. Test returning books to ensure that books can be successfully returned and checked out again. So as an example of this, let's say Bob still really wants to check out book 1, which, what even was that? 1984. He wants some dystopian stuff. Okay, so let's try coming over here. First we have to actually write the function. So let's do that. Let's say def return book. Okay, we're going to get self and a book object that we're wanting to return. Okay. So first let's check if the book they're returning is actually in their list, because it doesn't make sense to return something that's not even in there. So if not, book object in self dot checked out books, then let's just print out a message and say that book isn't checked out by you. Just return. Other than that, then we could just say, well, if we're returning here, we could also just do an else. That's the only condition, I think. So let's do else. Let's see, we have our self.checkedoutBooks. We want to remove the book object from our list, okay? So that should free it out. And then we also want to mark the book object as available. We have to make sure we spell it right, available. Let's set that equal to true. So now we're freeing it out for someone else to actually check it out. And we can print out a nice little message too. You just returned book object.title. You now have, let's say, the length of self dot checked out books. Books in your list. Okay, so let's try this one out. Let's say we want to have Jim is going to return book 1. He already finished reading it. Then if that works properly, then Bob should be able to check out book 1, even though he wasn't able to before. Let's try that out. Let's just jump over to here in our code. Let's debug it. Let's try stepping into here. So we're having Jim, and Jim has his checked out books, which includes 1984, and we're passing in the book object that corresponds to that with 1984. Okay, so we're skipping over here because this book object was in fact in there, and we're going to remove that from the list. We're going to change the book object, which it says is available was false, but now it's going to be set to true. And we're going to print out a nice little line there. Okay, we have one book in our list. And then Bob is going to check out the book. So let's step into that. And the book object is now available, so we should be able to have Bob check it out. Awesome. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of how you can have classes interacting with each other. And then, let's see, we have a practice file associated with this. So I'm gonna, at this point in class, I would basically read through the problem and then let you practice and try and do this on your own, or at least get a head start on it. I would pause the video if you could read through this, or I'll read through it right now, in fact, and then I would pause the video, see if you can do this on your own, and if not, you can watch me walk through it after this. So let's look through this one. So we want to create a simplified system to model the relationship between students and class sections, showcasing aggregation. So we're going to define two classes, class section with attributes for section ID and course name, and student with attributes for name and enrolled sections. The latter being a list to track the class sections a student is enrolled in. So students can be directly enrolled in sections by adding class section instances to their enrolled sections list. Okay, so pretty simple. You could even just do .append. Code a way for any student object to display their enrolled class sections. Make objects for each class. Add class sections to student objects and display which students are in which class. Okay. So we don't even need to write a custom method like we did in the last one for checkout. We can just directly append, or you could write a custom function, whatever way you want to do it. Well, let's just start doing this. Let's say we can just do class section first. Class section. So let's define our constructor here. And what do we have? Section ID, course name. section ID, course name. So let's do self section ID is equal to section ID. You can do self dot course name equals course name. Okay. Then let's make our other class. We're going to do student. Define. Let's set the init here. Self. What else do we want here? Name enrolled section. So I'm just going to put name up here. Say self.name equals name. I'm going to do self.enrolled section right there equals an empty list. And you might wonder why I'm not making a version of this where I just say, hey, let's put enrolled sections, and let me actually add an S to that, make it consistent, equals an empty list here, and then setting this equal to enrolled sections, right? The reason for this is because this will actually cause a lot of errors, because when Python comes through and makes this, in fact, I might be able to see it if we step through. When we first come through here, let me add a pass here so I can see what we've created. Okay, so we're pausing here. So we haven't made any objects or anything yet, but actually if we come into and look at our variables that we do have stored in here, you'll notice we have class variables. We have one for student. And it is actually going to include the, yeah, it's probably hard to track in here because it's stored inside of this student, but it's actually going to be creating this list when we create the student class. So because it's creating it here, that means every student object that we make after that would actually share this list, which would cause a bug. So the easiest way to get around that is to just keep it out of your parameter list and set it equal to an empty list. Or if you really, really want to give them the possibility of adding a list but have the default be an empty list, you could also do something like this and just say enrolled section equals none. And then if enrolled section is none, then set enrolled section to be an empty list. Else, if they pass something in, just say self.enrolled section equals enrolled section. So you could do all this. This just feels like overkill for a simple practice question like this to me. We're just trying to do something quick and easy. So I'm just going to do this. Set it equal to an empty list. That will save us from potential bugs and just make things a lot easier. So I'm going to do that. Sorry, that was a bit of a an offshoot onto a little peculiar bug thing. That's probably more details than you need. So we have name and enrolled sections, right? Student's going to be directly enrolled. Okay, so code away for student object to display the enrolled class section. So we can add a function to do that, but first let's just make a few class sections. Like let's say is201 equals class section. Let's say, I don't know, section ID is201. Say 303, maybe accounting 200. And you could make more if you want, but that's probably good enough for now. Then let's say, I don't know, James is going to be a student of ours. And James is going to have enrolled sections. And we can append is201 to him. We could also enrolled sections dot append. Let's do accounting 200. Okay. Let's say we also have Alice as a student, and Alice has her enrolled sections, and she's also going to enroll in IS-201 as well as, let's say IS-303. Okay. So this code will work, and we could access any of the stored class sections like this. Like, let's say I want to see the first class that Alice has in her list. Course name. Let's say we want to print that. So I can see that Alice is, in fact, enrolled in IS-201, but let's make a little fancier way to work with that. So let's say display classes, right? So let's just do self. That's all we really need here. And let's just create a little string that we can return. You could do this in some fancier ways using like .join, stuff like that, but let's just do a little loop. I think that's good to practice. So let's say for class section object inside of this student's enrolled sections. Right? Oh, but I forgot. So let's do that, and let's just say return string equals that. Let's just say return string plus equals, what do we want to do? Let's say just the, well, let's actually start it off with something like, let's say self.name is enrolled in the following courses. With the little thing there. Let's do plus equals this. Let's tab it over to make it look nice, and then we'll do the class section object dot. Let's just do course name. Let's do that, and then we can just throw an extra thing on there. Then let's return the return string. So instead of doing something like this, let's actually, we can just do it two separate times. Let's say, let's print out James.display classes. Okay. And we can do it for Alice too. Let's see if I coded this decently. Cool. So James is enrolled in the following courses: IS-201 and Accounting 200. Alice is in these following courses. Okay. So we can see here that we are creating two. Again, I've said this a few times, but the whole point of aggregation is you have two classes, right? You create objects of each type, and you stick object of one type inside the other object. That's basically it. So hopefully that gives you some good practice there. And yeah, we'll continue on in a separate video onto composition.